Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming out to the Queen's Host Show. We will be reading a content disclaimer before we always start our show out. But first of all, I want to say thank you for those that are subscribed. If you are not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and set it to all so you can get any notification when we go live. So we will start out with our content disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in the media or comments on this channel are those of the speakers or authors do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions held by this channel's broadcaster. Due to the social nature of this broadcasting channel, videos may contain copyrighted by another entity or person. This channel's owner claims no copyright to said content. The broadcaster of this channel cannot be held accountable for the copyrighted content. The broadcaster of this channel is a messenger and share of information that strives to verify, but cannot warrant the accuracy of copyrights or completeness of the information on this channel. If you have a complaint about something or find your content being used incorrectly, please contact the broadcaster prior to making a copyright claim. Any infringement was not done on purpose and will be rectified to all party satisfaction. Thank you all. So give us a moment as we get our introduction going. Thank you guys once again for tuning in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Queen Goddess Show. Tonight we are here to discuss a gentleman by the name of G.DEP. Okay, if you guys do not know him, he is a rapper that was in the spotlight and actually had a song out in the 90s with Puff Daddy back in the day. And it was the special delivery. I don't know if you guys remember, but special delivery. I get, like it had like a upbeat to the music, to the song or whatever. And it was amazing. I enjoyed the song. However, we have to sadly report that there's something going on in the news. And G. Dep is actually incarcerated. Uh huh. Absolutely. So here, actually, I'll bring up a photo so you guys can see him. So you guys can see who I'm talking about. Let's see. Thank you all for coming over. Let's see. Okay. All right. So this is G Dep, and he was affiliated with Bad Boy, you know. So here, so we on his name. So let's do news. Okay, there's no news. Let's see. G Dep rapper. Okay, so we'll just do all. Okay. Travail Gerald Coleman. Born November 19th, 1974. Better known by his stage name G. Dep, is an American rapper from Harlem, New York City. He joined Bad Boy. Okay. Okay, so let's see. He joined Bad Boy Records in 1998 and released his debut album, Child of the Ghetto, in 2001. He released his second album, Ghetto Legend, on September the 7th, 2010, with Famous Records. Wow. Okay, so He's a Scorpio, guys. He is definitely a Scorpio. And he's married. Oh, yeah. He's married to Letitia Coleman. That's his wife. And this is G.DEP. Okay, ladies, so he's taken, so let me thinking, when he come up out of here, y'all gonna be getting y'all a piece. Is this hold on, let's see. Is that him? No, that ain't him. No, that ain't him. I'm looking. Oh, this is him right here. That's him, his wife. Here. That's him, his wife, and his kids. Beautiful family. Was he incarcerated, George H. Well, General? Oh, funeral. Oh my God, they were at a funeral. Wow. Oh my. So yeah, guys, we are here to discuss this gentleman. He's locked away, and there's a reason that I'm bringing it up because I did speak with his wife, Letitia, as you can see her in the photo. Oh, give me 1 second. All right, so as you can see, the young Letitia in the photo. So that's her. That's G.DEP's wife and his children. Okay, that's his wife and his children. And I actually spoke with his wife, and unfortunately, she has a story to tell. And the reason why I say it's unfortunate because as a parent, we want to show up. As a wife, we want to show up. As a family member, we want to show up. But we also want to show up for ourselves. However, life can sometimes get in the way. Stress, depression, and before we go any further, let's go on that. If you are in a domestic, if you are suicidal, um, we are Googling up a number. If you need help, help is out here. You don't have to feel alone. You definitely don't have to feel alone. Help is available. Speak with someone today. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Hours are available 24 hours. Languages are English and Spanish. And the number is 800 273 8255. Um, Definitely, they are 24/7. You can reach out to them on social media. They do have an Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So that's National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Domestic violence. We do have a number for you as well. Domestic violence hotline. So we do have resources for you as well. Help is available if you find yourself in a situation you're uncomfortable. You're you know you're with a partner. You're um, getting abused. We do have a number if you want to get out of that situation. We do have a number. Help is available. Speak with someone today. National Domestic Violence Hotline. The hours are 24/7. The languages are English, Spanish, and 200 plus through interpretation services. The number for them is 800 799 7233. You can also text them at text start, text smart to 88788. So, homeless hotline. So this is in my area. There needs to be like a national hotline number for homelessness. However, we will. Oh, okay. So we do. Oh, that's for the veterans, homeless veterans. Okay. So yes, how to get help if you're experiencing homelessness. So if you are a veteran and you are homeless, oops, I'm sorry, guys. If you're a veteran and you are homeless, let me give you a resource. Yes. Let's see. Okay, so the homeless hotline. Okay. So here, let me go ahead and blow this up for you. So we can take care of our people and help our people. Hey, Sonia, how are you? Yeah, we definitely got to take care of our people. Okay, so how to get help if you are experiencing homelessness. The National Alliance to End Homelessness does not provide direct services such as housing or case management. If you are homeless or at risk of becoming homeless, please contact your local 211 hotline or continue reading for more information on how to get help in your community. Okay. So in your hometown, what I would suggest is um call the National Information line at 1-800-221-5689, and just see if they can point you. Supplemental. Oh, that's for SNAP. But yeah, I would look for somewhere in your area. So if you're homeless, look for places in your area. So don't do like a general search. Limit the search down to your city and state and your zip code. So like here, I'll give you an example. So here we'll go to Google. So shelters in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so guess what? It gives me a list of the places um, of shelters. So we have the Tulsa Day Center, which I've stayed there before, Salvation Army, and then you have John 3:16 Mission. Okay, so now we are going to go over to the reason why we are here. The reason why we are here is because this young man is behind bars and is seeking clemency. Okay. He's seeking clemency and his wife is working towards it. Give me 1 second. Okay. So let me go ahead and blow this up for us. Let me go ahead and blow this up for us. So clemency, she's looking for clemency, let's see, right here. Okay, there we go. All right. Let's go ahead and click on it. Mm, okay. So now I'm going to share the article. Okay. So let me know if you guys can see it. Okay. So this article is on change.org. Clemency test into a testimony. Okay. Mrs. Coleman started this petition. The constituents of the United States humbly request the Honorable Kathy Hochul take into consideration the clemency of Travail G. Coleman, who is currently located at Fishkill Correctional Facility in Fishkill, New York. Mr. Coleman has done majority of his sentence and has shown and continues to show a great deal of remorse for his victim and the victim's family. Mr. Coleman was sentenced a minimum of 15 to life and is eligible for parole in 2025. The New York City Prosecutor's Office has also requested clemency on Mr. Coleman's behalf. We continue to pray for all parties involved and have diligently worked hard on assisting others in similar situations. If you are unfamiliar with the story and the brave act it took Mr. Coleman to turn himself in on three different occasions until someone would listen on December 10th, 2010. Please, YouTube rapper G.DEP, may God bless everyone, and we look forward to the great people of America helping. Best regards, the Coleman family and friends. Let's get to 500. What right now there's only 314. I will go ahead and read an article about the gentleman and why he is incarcerated. Like I said, this is unfortunate, and we don't make the news. We just reporting it. And tonight, we may or may not have um, all the facts. However, let's work towards getting to some type of resolution. Okay, so just give me a moment while I reach out to the producers. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will go ahead and proceed with the story. Thank you all for being patient. All right. Thank you all for being patient. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. All right. So, the man who charged himself with murder, and let me actually bring up a photo. Let me bring up a photo so then we could all understand what's going on, what the situation is, and Yeah. Okay, so here we are. Give me 1 second. I'm going to let's see. I'm actually going to upload the photo so you guys can get a visual as I'm reading the story. You guys can see exactly who I'm talking about. However, this story is it's devastating. I hadn't gotten this, like I said, I haven't gotten into the whole story, but just from the title, it's kind of disturbing. So, the man who charged himself with murder late on the night of December 15th, 2010, Travell Coleman stepped out of the subway station at East 116th Street. The evening was bitterly cold, down to almost 20 degrees. He wore a North Face parka and a scarf wrapped around his head like a hoodie. He told nobody where he was going, not his mother, not his friends, not his relatives, because he knew they tried to stop him. With his hands jammed into his pockets, he began walking up Lexington Avenue towards East 119th Street. For years, he had been contending with flashbacks, nightmares, and intense feelings of guilt. The only way to stop them, he now thought, would be to talk to the police. At this point, what did he have to lose? He was 36 years old and had almost nothing, no job, no money, and no apartment of his own. All he really had was a rap moniker, G.DEP. Left over from his days as a member of Puff Daddy's Bad Boy crew, earlier that night, he had been playing the role of G.DEP once again, taping a public access TV show in the backseat of a car. It was a far cry from 2001 when he'd been in regular rotation on MTV's with Let's Get It, the video that turned the Harlem Shake into a dance craze. But now, none of that seemed important. All that did matter was what he'd done half a lifetime ago. In the fall of 1993, when he approached a man late one night, fired a gun, then fled. He never knew where the bullets landed or what became of the man. And after 17 years, he decided he needed to find out exactly what he'd done. Coleman had already visited the 25th precinct once before, not long ago. He'd spoken to a detective and given his cell number, but didn't hear back. As a police source would later explain to a reporter, Coleman had been high as a kite. Tonight, he was more clear headed and had decided this was going to be his last trip to the precinct. If he didn't get any answers this time, he would take that as a sign that he should move on and leave the past behind. But there was a chance. He knew that once he started talking to police, they might not let him leave. In fact, he might not get to walk the streets of East Harlem again for a very long time. Shortly before 11 p.m., he opened the door to the 25th precinct and stepped inside.
Hello, and thank you for coming by, Keeping Up with Queen Tulsa. I am your host, Queen Tulsa. Enjoy the show. I'm so excited you are here. Please like and subscribe.
In early 1993, Travell Coleman was an 18-year-old freshman enrolled at Iona College in New York, Rochelle. He'd made it through one semester, but soon after the second started, he decided he'd had enough. He called his mother and told her the news. I'm leaving school because I want to be a rapper. A what? A rapper? She said. Are you kidding me? She had hoped he might become a lawyer. He'd had an internship at a law firm when he was in high school, but she also knew he loved music. For years, she had listened to him rhyming in the shower, and she'd even watched the composition notebooks pile up in his bedroom, each page filled with lyrics. But who quit college to be a rapper? If he stopped going to school, she told him, she would stop supporting him. You're on your own. His mother has had his mother had been 18 when she gave birth to Coleman, and she'd raised him by herself in the Bronx and Washington Heights. Eventually, she married a cop, got a job with the MTA, and bought a house in Pocataway, New Jersey. At first, Coleman had commuted from there to his Catholic high school, LaSalle Academy, on the Lower East Side. Soon, however, he he tired of the 90-minute trip twice a day. He announced he wanted to stay with his grandmother, who lived in the James Weldon Johnson houses in East Harlem. His mother wasn't happy about that idea. She'd grown up in this housing project in the 60s and early 70s during the heroin epidemic and fled as soon as she got out of high school, but she agreed to let him move in with her mother. She didn't know it then, but her son had already discovered an easy way to earn extra money. Having hung out at the Johnson houses from an early age, sell a package of crack and make $30. After he quit Iona, he moved back in with his grandmother at 1840 Lexington Avenue, where his 14-year-old cousin Boise also lived. To support himself, Coleman would stand outside on Lexington on the sidewalk in front of his grandmother's building, selling cocaine. On a good day, he made 200. Other days, his income covered little more than pizza and marijuana. Whenever he saved enough money, he had in a whenever he saved enough money, he and a friend would go to the Bronx and spend 4 or 5 hours at a recording studio. He was also good at what he did. Boise recalls like playing basketball, rapping. He used to get everybody's attention over that. And when people wanted to go out, they'd always ask him to go out because he knew how to get all the girls. All right, so we have some comments in the chat. Science says hello. She says, yep. Science says murder doesn't have an expiration date. They can get you 50 years later. Hanging with Puffy Love. Somehow you wind up dead, broke, or both. Wow. Allegedly. Allegedly, child. Oh, child. Okay, so here we go. Let's go ahead and keep it going. About 6 months after moving back to East Harlem, Coleman bought a 40 caliber handgun from a neighborhood dealer for $500. Among his peers who hustled on Lexington, it was an unspoken code. If you had enough money to buy one, you ought to have one in case anything happens. And for a teenager who was only 5'8" and 165 pounds, owning a gun seemed an easy way to appear more intimidating. Coleman decided to use his new gun to make some extra money on the night of October 18th, 1993. A month before his 19th birthday, he had never tried to stick up anyone before, but he figured it couldn't be that difficult. He slid the pistol in the waist side of his jeans, climbed onto his bike, and paddled through the Johnson houses. Dun, 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 dun. Just after 1 a.m., he spotted a man in his 30s standing alone beneath the elevated train tracks at Park and 114th Street, smoking a cigarette. Coleman leaned his bike against a car, strode across the avenue, and pulled out his gun. Where's the money at? He asked, pointing his pistol at the man's torso. The man didn't respond. Where's the money at? The man stepped toward him, caught Coleman's eye, and grabbed for the gun. Startled Coleman, squeezed off 3 shots. The man winced but didn't make a sound. Coleman darted back to where he left his bike, threw one leg over it, and started pedaling as fast as he could. He felt the man behind him trying to grab him, and when he turned to look, he saw him stumble. Coleman didn't look back again and instead sped through north on Park Avenue. He made a loop right on 115th Street, right on Lexington, right on 112th, and then stopped at the corner of Park and 112th to peek back, spot where he just fired his gun. There was a car parked in the wrong direction, pointing south on the northbound side of the street, headlights facing him, and he thought he saw somebody kneeling over a body on the ground. Before anyone could spot him, he leapt back onto his bicycle and raced home. His grandmother was already asleep when he snuck inside. After stashing the gun in the dresser drawer, he collapsed on his bed, still wearing his street clothes, his face pressed into his pillow. Over and over, he replayed the shooting in his head, his finger pulling the trigger, the 3 gunshots, the men starting to fall, and each time he hoped for a different ending. One where he looked up Park Avenue and saw nothing. No car parked in the wrong direction, no body on the ground. Perhaps it all just been a very bad dream, he told himself. The thought the thought comforted him and he clung to it, turning it over in his mind. Coleman didn't tell anyone what he had done and kept to his routine in the following days. He hustled on Lexington Avenue, hung out with friends, smoked marijuana, all while secretly terrified about the possibility that the police might catch him. At one point, when he was walking up Lexington, he saw 2 detectives in front of his grandmother's building. It looked as if they'd just been talking to a small group of people and were now getting into the car. But as Coleman got close, one of the officers popped back. Do you know anything about a shooting? He asked. His question felt routine, as if he had just asked 100 other people the same thing. No, Coleman said, trying to act nonchalant. I don't know anything. As he walked away, he repeatedly as he walked away, he repeated the officer's words to himself, parsing them for clues. They had said shooting. They didn't say homicide. Maybe the guy was okay after all. A week after the shooting, Coleman retrieved the gun from his dresser, placed it in a shopping bag, walked the 4 blocks to the edge of Manhattan, and tossed it in the East River. That was the only way I knew how to handle it, he later explained. I just tried to get rid of the memory of the whole thing, but every time he passed 114th and Park, he still found himself reliving that night. The sound of his gun going off, the man wincing and stumbling. He began avoiding Park Avenue altogether. 10 days after the shooting, the police arrested Coleman for selling crack. Finding himself in central booking, he was consumed by one thought. Are they going to come in here any minute and say, we got you? But the police knew nothing. The courts treated the 18-year-old as a youthful offender. He got off with no state prison time, and his case was sealed. 1 year passed. Then two, and the cops never arrested him for the shooting. They didn't come yet. He'd repeat to himself like a mantra, maybe nothing happened. Nah, nothing happened. Nah, nothing happened. His efforts to convince himself the shooting hadn't even taken place felt short. At the back of my mind, he says, I knew something happened. His mother didn't know what was going on, but she had begun to observe changes in his behavior. He had always been soft spoken, but now he was quieter, more introverted. He stopped smiling. She says, I couldn't understand why he was so serious. Others, however, didn't notice a thing. He seemed to be the same kind of kid I knew as a child, says his uncle Clarence Coleman. He didn't look like he was haunted by anything. In 1996, he was arrested 3 times in 2 months for selling cocaine. His punishment 7 months in state prison. He was 22 when he got out. He had already become known in New York's underground rap scene. Gangster Star gave him a shout out in the line in the liner notes to their 1994 album Hard to Earn. If he didn't want to spend the rest of his 20s in a prison cell somewhere upstate, he decided now was the time to get more serious about his music. In the autumn of 1998, Coleman found himself standing on the corner of Lexington and 112th Street. One night, with a silver car rolled down. One night, when a silver car rolled down the avenue, its blue halogen headlights drawing everyone's attention. The driver pulled up to the curb and cracked his window. "Dep, right?" he said. "Get in the car." It didn't take long before everyone in the Johnson house had heard the news. Puff Daddy has sent a Bentley to fetch Coleman. Recently, Black Rob, a bad boy rapper from the Jefferson house next door, had invited Coleman to appear on the album. After hearing Coleman in the recording studio, a Bad Boy senior executive had pulled him aside and asked if he wanted to sign a recording contract. All right. All right. If you are following along, please let me know in the comments. And also, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's go ahead and subscribe. Get this in the algorithm.
Hello, and thank you for coming by, Keeping Up with Queen Tulsa. I am your host, Queen Tulsa. Enjoy the show. I'm so excited you are here. Please like and subscribe.
Okay, so we are back. Bad Boy Entertainment released G.DEP's first album, Child of the Ghetto, in the fall of 2001. Vibe gave the album 4.5 discs and profiled him a feature called People on the Verge. By then, Coleman was 27 and had a 3-year-old daughter. With his daughter and her mother, he moved to a townhouse in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. He had told nobody about the shooting, but even after he'd left East Harlem, there were moments when memories of what he'd done would bubble up. He would be at the movies, a tub of popcorn on his lap, watching the screen. When one character would pull out a pistol and shoot somebody, and suddenly he was right back in 1993 on Park and 114th. When he was younger, he identified with the perpetrator on the screen. When he was younger, he'd identify with the perpetrator on the screen. "I shot someone too," he'd say to himself. But as he got older, he found himself empathizing with the victim. In the middle of the movie, he started wondering if the man he had shot was still alive. And then he questioned whether he even deserved to be in a theater at all, rather than in prison. The lights would go back on, everyone would foul out, and he'd leave with no memory of the movie he'd just seen. Then there were nights when he'd stay out late, working or partying until 2 a.m., coming in after everyone else was asleep, sprawled on the sofa in the living room, exhausted and high. He'd find himself obsessing yet again about the shooting. His paranoia about the cops catching him had almost disappeared, but on nights like this, he felt overwhelmed by an intense fear, like my soul is going to burn in hell. That fear, he says. He had been smoking marijuana since the 11th grade, but after he signed with Bad Boy, he tried a dust blunt for the first time. marijuana mixed with angel dust and found that PCP helped alleviate this torment in a way that marijuana never had. It was recently at a point where I used to hear voices, and my conscience used to tell me, what you did was wrong, he says. That was really the one only drug that made me not think about anything. Before too long, he was smoking so many dust blunts that executives at Bad Boy took notice. Okay. So he signed a 350,000 he signed a $350,000 contract. $350,000. So is that considered a 360? Don't give me the line. Just allegedly. He signed a $350,000 contract with Bad Boy for years. Hold on. He signed a $350,000 contract with Bad Boy 4 years earlier. But by the end of 2002, he was broke. After he lost his lease on the townhouse in New Jersey, he packed the family's belongings and drove to the Johnson houses. Now I'm bringing the U-Haul right back up to 1840, he says. It was so depressing. Not only had his career stalled, but he was living once again just a block away from the scene of his crime. Not long after moving back to East Harlem, Coleman lost his grandmother, and his deal with Bad Boy to cope, he began smoking more PCP. The more he smoked, the more his rap sheet grew. Between 2003 and 2007, he was arrested 17 times, mostly for drug possession, sometimes for trespassing, hanging out in a building that wasn't his, often to get high, and once for theft services, slipping through the exit gate to steal a free ride on the subway. Between trips to Rikers, he tried to jumpstart his career without much success. Everything fell apart, says Boise Coleman. He started using more. Everything changed about him. He wasn't the person I grew up with. He wasn't talkative. He was zoned out. His aunt Cecilia Coleman recalls he was always preoccupied. He wasn't socializing the way you would normally do. Half the time, he wouldn't even say anything. You'd say, "How you doing, Travail?" And he'd say, "I'm okay." And that was it. By now, Coleman was married and had two more kids, twin boys. He'd met his future wife, a former airline worker named Crystal Sutton, at a nightclub, and married her in 2004. His addiction to angel dust made for a tumultuous relationship. She would enroll him into a rehab program. She would enroll him into rehab programs, but he would never stay long. And she could always tell when he'd been smoking. He would stutter, his whole body would shake, and even his stench would remind her of a Martha. For oh, hold on, honey. Um, we're gonna have to here. We're gonna get this word. Ooh, okay. Give me one second. Give me one second. Give me one second. Okay, give me one second. We're just gonna do a quick reminder.
Hello, and thank you for coming by, Keeping Up with Queen Tulsa. I am your host, Queen Tulsa. Enjoy the show. I'm so excited you are here. Please like and subscribe.
Formaldehyde. Formaldehyde.
Okay, so here we go. He would stutter, his whole body would shake, and his stench would remind her of formaldehyde. Several years after they got married, he told her that he'd fired a gun at a stranger when he was a teenager. One time he said he shot someone and they lived. She says another time it was a slightly different story. He shot someone and doesn't know what happened to them. She wasn't sure what to think. Once while he was high, he announced he was Jesus. He'd also accused her of being a cop at least 3 times. He'd been carted off to hospital psych wards. Coleman confided his secret to the 3 other people too. Oh, Coleman confided his secret to 3 other people too: his mother, his daughter's mother, and a friend. He recalls that his mother responded by saying, "Well, that was a long time ago. That was in the past." And then she changed the subject. "I don't think she really believed me," he says. "She was just bringing up other stuff. Are you still going to rehab?" She didn't really want to talk about it. Coleman sometimes mentioned that he was thinking of going to the police. I would bring it up just so people would be like, "Man, you can't be serious. Don't ever do that." And I'd be like, "You're right." He says he was hoping somebody would make a convincing argument for moving on. "I just wanted somebody to say, 'Don't worry about it,'" he says. But after a while, he found that no matter whom he told or what they said, nothing could quiet his conscience. There was really, there wasn't really an answer I could get. I was looking for someone that wasn't there. Okay, so it says in the spring of 2010, Coleman found himself lying in a hospital bed with a fractured skull, stitches on his head, bandage over one eye, and no idea how he got there. The last thing he remembered was smoking PCP and wandering on East 115th Street. He thought he'd been hit by a car, but he didn't know for sure. "You could have died," his mother told him, "and I'm not going to lose you like this." He entered a 30-day rehab program in June 2010 and spent hour after hour sitting in groups, listening to other addicts share their mistakes and regrets. A lot of people were really cleansing their soul and really getting to the root of their problem, he says. Um, okay, here we go. I was not. I was just I was not. I would just be embellishing, telling stories about getting high. I wasn't being totally honest. Okay. Let's see. After finishing the program, he signed up for more outpatient treatment at a hospital in the Bronx. All right, you guys, give me 1 second. I'm actually over here trying to put together something. You know, if you know, you know. So give me 1 second. But yes, mm, this is deep. Hmm. Yeah. So we're still gonna go on with the story, child. And before I give my commentary on it, I'm just gonna read this. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. Okay. So yes, we are back. Okay, so after finishing the program, he signed up for more outpatient treatment at a hospital in the Bronx. He was trying harder to stay clean than ever he'd ever tried before, but there were still slip ups. Hmm. So on August 2nd, a cop snapped a pair of cuffs on him after finding him smoking PCP in the park in the Johnson houses inside a stairwell at 1591 Park Avenue. On November 17th, another cop caught him in the same building with PCP. Now, if memory serves me correctly, isn't his birthday November the 17th? Give me 1 second. Mm, oh, his birthday is November 19th. Oh, so he was getting turned up before his birthday. Okay. It was no coincidence he kept getting arrested inside 1591 Park. The building overlooks the spot where he fired his gun back in 1993. And for reasons he couldn't quite explain, it had become a favorite place to get high. He'd light up in the stairwell and stare out the window at the Metro North tracks above Park Avenue. Maybe that was my way of confronting that demon. Or maybe I was just becoming that demon, or that demon was consuming me, he says. That's how crazy I was getting. At times, his life felt like a series of endless internal calculations, all a part of an effort to, as he later explained, balance myself out. If he bought a coat, he might scribble on one pocket with a marker before putting it on, just to deprive himself of the chance to wear something completely new. He never had much money, and he was so determined to give away what he did have that a few times he stuffed bills into his coin slots of payphones, then walked away. After oh, after work, he felt a little better. I did think, well, okay, now I don't have to feel like I have too much regret, he says, but the relief was only temporary. Coleman and his wife had separated, but he still stopped by to visit his 7-year-old sons. Some days he'd be separated with them at the table, sharing a meal, thinking how blessed he was to have such beautiful boys, and suddenly be seized by guilt. Did the man he shot at have any kids? What happened to them? And why should he get to spend time with his kids if there was a chance he'd rob another child of his father? Soon after Coleman walked into the 25th precinct on that freezing night near the end of 2010, he found himself in the back of a police car riding through East Harlem. At the 25th precinct, he admitted to a detective the basic details of his crime: the location, type of gun used, description of victim. Once the detective heard the crime's location, he called over to the precinct that covers that area. Give us one moment. We'll be right back.
We're having a quick intermission, so go ahead and refill those drinks, and we'll be right back. Hello, and thank you for coming by, keeping up with Queen Tulsa. I am your host, Queen Tulsa. Enjoy the show. I'm so excited you are here. Please like and subscribe.
Okay. Thank you all for coming back with us. By 12:30 a.m., Coleman was seated inside an interview room at the 23rd precinct, surrounded by cinder block walls. A detective asked him questions about what had occurred, then wrote down his answers, creating a narrative of what he said he had done. The last line of his confession: the reason I turned myself in was because I felt awful about what I did, and I wanted to make it right for this guy's family. What Coleman didn't know was that before he walked into this room, the detective had searched the precinct's homicide logbook and found what looked like a match. John Hinkle, white, 32 years old, shot on northbound side of Park by 114th, possible 40 caliber case. Only after Coleman signed his confession did he get an answer to the question that he'd been haunting him for 17 years. I just want to tell you that I just wanted to tell you that guy died. In the hip hop press, G.Dep's confession became huge news. Had he really gone to the police and snitched on himself? Online commenters weighed in. GP G.Dep is an idiot. Nobody does that ever. What a dumbass. When Coleman's family heard what he had done, they persuaded Anthony Rico, one of the city's top defense attorneys, to represent him. They'd hoped the district attorney would let Coleman plead guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence. That didn't happen. And last spring, the case went to trial. Rico tried to convince jurors that although Coleman confessed to a shooting, the police had matched his words to the wrong cold case. He teased out numerous discrepancies between Coleman's confession and the Hinkle murder. Color of the victim's hair, color of his jacket, time of year the murder occurred, but the jury didn't buy it. In the end, it was Coleman's own words. Not only the written confession, but a videotaped confession he gave afterwards that got him convicted of second-degree murder. An autopsy of John Hinkle's body revealed he'd been shot 3 times in the chest, abdomen, and back. His brother identified his body, which featured a tattoo of the word love written vertically on his left forearm. The night he was shot, he was carrying a billy club. His wallet, he held only 2 bills, a 5 and a $1 bill. A toxicology report showed he had PCP in his system. Hinkle lived in Ridgeville, Queens. Why was he in East Harlem at 1 a.m.? It's logical to assume he was there for some drug related purchase or to use drugs in some manner. The prosecutor told jurors nobody from Hinkle's family testified, and there was no mention of any wife or kids left behind. When a New York Post reporter tracked down his stepbrother Robert Hinkle upstate to get his reaction to Coleman's confession, Hinkle said, I think he's an idiot. He has 3 kids and a wife. It was years and years and years ago. Finally, we're not always thinking about it, and now it has to be dug up all again. After all this time, yes, he just should have shut up. When asked to comment about Coleman for the story, Hinkle said, "He can go fuck himself. Okay, goodbye." The jury's decision to convict Coleman pushed both his wife and his mother to tears. But when Coleman returned to Rikers and got on the telephone, nobody could believe how he sounded. He's like, "Hey, how you doing, man?" says Jonathan Kwame Owosu, who was his manager. He was upbeat. It didn't make any sense. 3 weeks later, a judge sentenced him to 15 years to life. I was happy, Coleman recalls. It sounds crazy to say you were happy about getting 15 years of life in prison, but I was. It just seemed to me like the end of a nightmare. I was living in 1993 for 17 years. Today, Travell Coleman is a prisoner of number 12A 2293 at Elmira Correctional Facility, a maximum security prison some 240 miles from East Harlem. Now 38, he won't be eligible for parole until soon after his 51st birthday, near the end of 2025. And then, and even then, there is no guarantee that parole board will release him. One morning in August, he sits in a prison visiting room wearing his usual attire: forest green sweatshirt, matching green pants, a size too big, white canvas sneakers, rosary beads, a cross dangled from his neck, tucked inside his sweatshirt, a few white hairs, dotted black goatee. It has been 4 months since his trial ended, and while he no longer seems buoyant, he insists he has no regrets. I don't know. Now, me being incarcerated, I can't measure how much it makes anything any better, he says, but I just know what I have to do. what I had to do. I heard you first unalive someone you never forget. Your first unalive someone you never forget. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, here we go. While on Rikers awaiting trial, he wrote a memoir, 300 plus pages, handwritten, almost all of it in rhyme. In rhyme. Writing comes more easily to him these days, he says, since he's no longer high all the time and no longer preoccupied with the past. It was something I was going through periodically. It was something that was like a knot at all times. He says, curling one hand into a fist. Sometimes I didn't even want to walk with my head up. I just wanted to look down. If I stood up, I felt funny. Like, who am I to be looking up? From the time he was a child, Coleman could always tell his mother, I love you, Ma. She never doubted his sincerity. But for the past 19 years, he barely ever looked at her when he said these words. Instead, casting his eyes down and uttering the sentence as if it were a question. On September 15th, his mother and wife drove up to Elmira to see him. They sat together at a table in the visiting room, and when he said, I love you, Mom, he held his head up and looked her straight in the eye. So, guys, this was heavy. This was tough. And I only wanted to be here for an hour. I will be reaching out to his wife and seeing if she would like to definitely come on the show. I did speak with her earlier, and she was busy with their son, allegedly. And yeah, so just stay tuned for that. I just wanted to get this story out there. I definitely want you guys to look at that. Look at the petition that is up and give me your thoughts and your opinions. Well, today was a great show. Unfortunately, on our other channel, we cannot go live on it at the moment. However, we will be here. We will be sounding off here. This is the content that we're going to be given. This is the person that we're focused on tonight. G.DEP, Mr. Coleman, Travell. So on that note, thank y'all for tuning in. I'm your host, Goddess Hosa. Until next time.
Hello, and thank you for coming by, keeping up with